Representative Matsumoto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to this measure.
Please proceed.
I'll start with what I agree with. I agree with our family that our families are hurting in Hawaii. People are living paycheck to paycheck, and they're leaving our state because they cannot afford to live here. We need to change that. People are struggling, and they need help. What I don't agree with is the how. When we were considering a minimum wage increase to $13 in 2020, I was willing to support the bill. Then COVID hit, and before we shut down the legislature, I gave a speech on this floor stating I agreed with the increase, but now is probably not the time. Here we are today, considering a much greater increase, a 78% increase to the minimum wage, when the economic climate is much worse. We are putting almost all of our hope in raising the minimum wage when there are so many other ways to achieve the same goal. And it's something that I have been focused on for the last few years. It's why I've introduced bills to help local families, like a bill to lower the income tax. A third of our paycheck is taken away from taxes. Collectively, we have some of the highest taxes in the nation. Imagine the impact that we could make if we gave people more of their hard-earned money back so they can spend it the way that they feel is best for them. For years, I've introduced a bill to eliminate tax on necessities like food and medical services. This would immediately help people in their everyday lives, and it's a measure that almost all of the other states have enacted in our country. I've also introduced bills for those with children, opportunities for assistance with childcare, and these are the things we need to focus on more, not just a dramatic increase in the minimum wage. Raising our minimum wage is not going to ultimately help the people of Hawaii in the long run. Over the last 2 years, our island small businesses have weathered storm after storm. They've had to deal with government-imposed restrictions that were put there for the intended health and safety of our population, but there was constant uncertainty. They were forced to close, and then they were allowed to reopen, and then they got closed again, and then reopened, and it was back and forth. And with mounting pressure from stifling mandates to supply chain crises, hundreds of businesses, ranging from startups to family legacies, were given no choice but to close their doors. And for those who remain, the challenges are far from over. Just a few days ago, the vaccination passport requirement was lifted. We are not well into an economic recovery. We're still in the midst of really difficult times. I think so often we think we're just going to raise the minimum wage and it's not going to affect some corporate employer. And in so many cases, it's not just a faceless employer. It's people like my mother. My family has had Pearson Upland Farm in Wahiawa for 112 years. My great-grandfather started the farm in 1910, and we supply local fresh eggs to people in our communities, as many of you know. My mother works 12 to 14 hours a day to keep our farm afloat, but we operate on razor-thin margins, as many farmers do. And these last few years have been especially difficult. Not only has there been uncertainty with what we are allowed and not allowed to do, but the general cost of business is going up. At the beginning of last year, it was $14,000 to ship and buy feed for our chickens. Just last month, it was $18,600. That is a $4,000 increase just for the cost of feed to chickens, not wages. That's a 33% increase. Being an island state with no feed grown here locally, we have no option but to ship in. And with all of the unrest currently going on throughout the world, it's only going to get worse. Just yesterday, my mom had to order more egg cartons, and that price has gone up astronomically because the price of cardboard has gone up. People say it's not going to matter. But if this bill passes, the best case scenario is that we cut half of our labor force on the farm. We would have to let go of half of our workers, some of which who have worked on our farm for over 30 years. It's hard enough as it is to find people to work on the farm. But if this passes, who is going to want to work on the farm that is a very labor intensive job. We talk about supporting.
Representative Matsumoto.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I yield my time.
We talk about supporting agriculture on this floor all the time. We use it as an industry to replace tourism, to be self-sufficient, but yet we're passing policies that are detrimental to so many farmers. But more realistically, if this bill passes, we will have to shut our doors within the next 2 years. And we've seen historically in our state, once a farm goes out of business, they're not going to start up again. Once it's gone, it's gone. My heart breaks for my mother. After 4 generations of serving our community, our farm is probably going to be forced to close its doors, and now she's going to feel personally responsible that the business closed under her watch. But with everything compounded and everything going on, it's not her fault. My family's story is not unique. This is the story of small businesses across our state. We're currently in a high inflation environment, and it's only going to get more difficult for businesses to operate. The big box and the chain stores will be fine. They can afford to automate their systems. They can have more self-checkout lines. Who are really hurting is our local business owner and ultimately their staff. All we're doing is inviting big businesses to come in and take over our state because the small guys can't make it. Testimony from local businesses made it clear that the significant wage increase is going to be a final blow. The Chamber did a survey with 450 members, with 50% having 25 or less employees. 2/3 of the businesses responded that they'd have to cut staff. 27% said they'd have to lay off half of their staff. And 1/3 of the business said they would be forced to shut down completely. This is going to result with a lot of people without jobs. So with all of the uncertainty of the pandemic, with all of the unrest going on around the world, and still being in a very difficult economic climate, this is not the time to be significantly raising the minimum wage. But it is the time to help those in our community by other means. And we can do that. The legislature can help people. I completely agree with the section of the bill that ensures that the state earned income tax credit is permanent and refundable. But the majority of the burden should not be on the backs of local businesses who are trying to provide goods and services for our local communities, like my family. We, the legislature, need to find a reasonable, multi-pronged solution for the people of our state, and we should be the ones to help. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative